In this video, I'm gonna be breaking down why truckers, veterans, and niched leads have become the most popular lead type in the industry and how you can capitalize on it as a life insurance agent. My name is Trey. In the past 4 years, we've helped 550 plus agents hit $40,000 per month in paid commissions. And on this channel, I talk about the strategies, tactics, and behaviors that you can go out and implement and what's going on in the industry so you can stay attuned of exactly what you need to know. As always, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and let's hop right into the video. So, here is something that a lot of people have been talking about. Some people know about, others don't, and it's niched leads. Trey, what does that mean? So I have tons of previous videos on my YouTube that break down all these different lead types based on demographics. And one of them that you constantly hear me talk about is what I call niched or specific lead types that are basically customized on a specific demographic. So they kind of break all the principles that I've outlined in my previous videos, because they don't necessarily fit within the traditional final expense or the traditional IUL or the traditional mortgage protection, because they're actually more of like the ideal client. And then individuals have found ways to create hooks, angles, and variations from a marketing standpoint to draw them in and then create what's called life insurance programs around that demographic. Let me give an example. One popular one is what we call veterans, okay? So veterans is actually just targeting, traditionally, it was final expense. Now it's branched off into veterans general life, veteran final expense, veteran mortgage protection, veteran IULs, right? And what they're essentially doing is now attaching that demographic to a product type or a specific type of life insurance that they want to sell them. And then they're calling it a veteran IUL. Now, here's what you have to understand about niches. The reason why people target niches is because they fit the more ideal demographic. Now, as life insurances continue to grow, and it will continue to grow, there are the more broad audiences still actually win and do well, but typically they can draw in any type of demographic. And that typically hurts agents because they may be wanting to do, for example, final expense, right? People who want whole life. Whole life's not necessarily a bad product, but when you run generalized advertising, it typically optimizes for anybody who's looking for life insurance. People on Social Security, disability. And while those individuals still may be within the veteran niche, the difference is that veterans, they have traditionally a lot more excessive cash flow readily at hand, which means that you as an agent can write higher premiums. So why am I talking about this? Because there are more lead types that are coming about, and I want to talk about the two most prominent, which is going to be veteran, and I'm going to talk about truckers. All right. So let's start with veteran. As I explained, typically individuals like them because veterans are used to having benefits. Veterans are used to being treated a little bit differently because they have served our country, which we are extremely appreciative for. So from a marketing standpoint, it's a little bit easier to capture their attention. And then they also have additional excess cash flow, essentially every month on top of their Social Security disability benefits. They're also going to receive their VA benefits that can come to them. And that can range anywhere depending on their disability rating and what all that they got approved for, anywhere between $1,500, $2,000, $5,000, even up to $10,000 per month. So if you're coming in and you're talking to a client who's looking to protect their family, even if it's not a standard policy, right? And it's not a level, it may be graded or even guaranteed issue, they're still willing to spend the money because they have the money. And you're not penny pinching with traditional final expense leads where, you know, a $115 a month policy, they're literally one move away from canceling that because it's so expensive relative to how much money they have available, or you selling like a $30 a month policy and it's sticking on the books, but you're not getting really paid anything, right? And this is typically what happens now. The same thing people are essentially trying to do with IULs because then they'll just on the back end sell them a whole life policy, right? Especially if they're not trying to fund it for cash value, which is a whole nother conversation. Now, this is typically what you're seeing when it comes to veterans that people really, really enjoy. On top of this demographic is extremely straightforward. You don't necessarily need to beat around the bush. You can kind of tell them what it is and they're gonna give you an option. Whatever option makes sense for you, they're gonna let you know a yes or no. There are think about it, you're still gonna get that, but essentially what you're doing is you're dialing in on one specific demographic. Now, I really like this lead type. I personally, as an agent, have never written a veteran life insurance policy, but I will talk from the clients that I work with and my knowledge about the industry thus far and how it works, right? When you're dealing with a very straightforward demographic, let's use, for example, mortgage protection, which tends to be homeowners who are a little bit more straightforward than your traditional final expense, and they're a lot more straightforward than people that may be filling out ads for IULs or if you're working with a company, when you're buying leads from a company that's doing more infinite banking style advertising, because you're gonna have a lot of people who come in. There's really no pre-qualifications. So what you're trying to look for is within a lead type, when you go to these niches, you look for lead types that have already pre-qualified the lead. Most of the times, what are things people run into? Oh, these people don't have money. They're not necessarily as competent as I would like them to be relative to the product or service that I'm offering them. And they don't really have a real why. So the reason why people like mortgage protection, taking a step back before we step back into veterans, is because they're homeowners. So they typically have what? A higher credit score. They might have a more readily cash flow. They probably have some sort of job or enough to continue to pay for a mortgage, which means that when you come in and say $100 a month, once again, they're more likely and more inclined to be like, yeah, that's nothing. Cool, we can get that set up. Right. And at the end of the day, it's life insurance. It's not necessarily a difficult product to explain to people and why they need it. But the thing that makes it difficult is finding the right people and making sure you put them in the right plan for their budget. And when you're dealing with a mortgage protection client, that's not necessarily ever a problem. The problem is you have to derail their expectations from they're being 73 and wanting a $150,000 mortgage to explain to them how they can protect their equity. And for a lot of people, that becomes very difficult. So how do you blend this simplicity of a sale of final expense and the annual premium and the qualification of the individual lead demographic with mortgage protection? That's where you get veterans. And that's really why a lot of agents like veterans. Now let's take a step over into the trucker industry. Now, this is something that's even been relatively new for me. So I'm still kind of learning this, to be very transparent with you, but I'll share with you what I've learned thus far. And I will come back and obviously continue to share as I continue to explore and to learn more, as well as other, I'll do like a bonus round on just other additional niches that are working or other people are doing and probably will be on the up and up that you should probably look out for. So when it comes to truckers, a lot of agents really like these leads because once again, you're going for a niche demographic. Now, a few things. Their job is extremely dangerous, relatively speaking, in terms of their occupation. Most of them are individual drivers. Some of them are company owners, owner-operators. You have some company drivers, so most of the times they don't have any benefits. They don't have any packages that are actually available for them to get life insurance. And if they do, it's very standard. Now, you could come in and offer them an IUL, right? And they can get qualified because most of them are relatively healthy, fully underwritten. You can stack it for cash value. You can go for death benefit depending on what their goals are. And then you're able to close them. Now, the con of these leads, the only real bad thing I've heard is that they're a little bit more difficult to get in contact with because they are on the road. They are a little bit more expensive to generate as a lead company. So even, for us, we don't, as of the recording of this video, we don't have the leads up on the website. We're in the process of just like revamping it and trying to get things together in terms of making it cost effective for agents. But if you are buying from vendors, typically those leads are relatively high priced, which isn't a bad thing because they're super high intent, but just understand and keep in mind that that is a part of the process. So if you're looking for a lead that is super premium, similar to like the old school mortgage protection, where like basically everybody you get on the phone, as long as you can figure out a product for them, you're writing a pretty big premium, that's what you're going to be looking at. And a lot of people really like these because they get the opportunity to explain to a demographic that doesn't necessarily hear about IULs as much. So that's one thing that is super cool and a lot of people really like about the trucker IUL leads. Now, I've seen some people that just run trucker life insurance leads. Those work relatively well too. You're still targeting the ideal demographic. You're just not capitalizing on the marketing front of letting them know that, their money can grow, cash value, et cetera, and all the benefits of a traditional IUL, which I will not go into, or traditional whole life, which I'm also not going to go into in regards to which one you think is better. But what I will tell you, and what is super, super important to understand, is that there are numerous more niches that will be coming out, right? There are niches where they're dealing with blue collar workers, union workers, farmers. I've seen credit union leads. There are tons of little niches that you can actually explore and continue to grow into. If you're working with a company that's doing some sort of like self-gen, if you're buying from traditional vendors, or if you're just generating leads yourself, you can kind of explore these niches and figure out which one's going to be the best for you and get you the biggest ROI. And that is honestly what a lot of agents have been falling in love with, is the ability for them to be able to pick these niches and then narrow in on what the benefits of them actually working with that individual demographic is going to be and what that demographic gets in return. Right? And the reason this is because traditional final expense, traditional mortgage protection, and traditional IUL is a little bit more difficult when it comes to you being able, right, to sell them because you're looking for somebody who has money and is relatively healthy. That's the difficulty with buying leads anywhere. In a perfect world, we would just write fully underwritten business. We would just, have people come to their house. So there wouldn't be any objections because it'd be like, yo, it's life insurance. You need it. Cool. You just go around and ask. The problem is most people don't really want to talk about it, right? It's not tangible. And when it comes to marketing, the people that genuinely do need it and have actually had issues in their life relative to, like, by issues, I mean like they've had people pass away or they've seen a lot, aren't necessarily the healthiest, and they're kind of just scrolling on Instagram and Facebook and Google or wherever, YouTube, TikTok, whatever platform that you have them on. It's not to say that you can't get high intent, but you have to understand the demographic. So if you're gonna go after a specific niche, you are now highlighting that niche and letting them know there's probably something that you don't know and you can take advantage of. So hopefully this video helps. It's a quick overview. This is one of the things that's actually happening right now. It's 2026, it's the summertime. I'm telling you, over the next year and a half, 2 years, the game is going to completely flip on its head. There's going to be a lot more niches coming out, a lot more people focusing on niches because the market is continuing to expand. There are more and more life insurance agents every single month, every single year. And this is going to be one of the only industries that is 100% recession proof. Here's what I mean, right? Government's not necessarily going to constrain, right, the life insurance space with the efforts of AI because you need human beings to sell it. They don't want AI to get involved in that because they also are involved, etc. So you need to understand that if you are a life insurance agent, or if you know people that might want to get into life insurance, I'm telling you, now is the time. Not just you can see from the leads. We used to just do final expense and mortgage. Then IULs they've been around, but as a lead type, they blew up, right? Annuities have been around, right? Now it's like this, there's this veteran thing. Then now there's truckers. And there's all these little niches. And the crazy thing is, it's typically the really big companies who are pumping a lot of volume and have a lot of sales reps that are running ads, buying leads from lead vendors, and they continue to need more people. So the game is not getting any smaller. It's only getting bigger as all these other companies and businesses are going out because AI efforts are pushing them out. Something like life insurance is bringing more people in, right? High ticket coaches, consultants, the info space. They are needing and wanting to find another vehicle, right? AI is taking away a lot of jobs for people, right? Opportunities, professions. Now they're like, okay, where do I go to get that additional income? Where do I go to build something? Where do I go to get cash flow? It's the life insurance niche. And you can see that through lead types that are coming out. So as always, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. If you're looking for leads, go to leadlabcrm.com. If you're looking to potentially, talk to us, figure out if this is going to be a good fit, we just sell leads, really good leads at a high level. Go to agentleadlab.com. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.